Welcome to part 2 of lesson 3, where we looked at the following HTML elements. We looked at how to embed lists, images, and divs in our web page. Today we'll be moving on to a new topic called HTML attributes. Okay, HTML attributes provide additional information about HTML elements. We have seen attributes in tags like a tag and the src and the image tag, where in the a tag we have the href, in the image tag we have the src and the alt tag. These are all attributes. Now, all HTML elements can have attributes, but it doesn't mean it is mandatory for them. The only exception for elements that must have attributes are a tag and then the image tag. Okay, because without those attributes, what you are trying to display on your web page will not show. You need the href to link your external resource. You need the src to display your image on the web page. So a tag and image tag, these two must have attributes, but for other HTML elements, it isn't mandatory. Attributes provide additional information about elements. Attributes are always specified in the start tag, and we have seen this while using the a tag and the image tag. Attributes usually come in name and value pair. Okay, so that is why you see in our a tag you have the href, which is the name of the attributes, and then you have the value you specify, which is the link to your external resource. Okay, so for the course of this tutorial, we will be looking at title, class, and ID tag. So I'm just going to head over to VS Code and we can look at this. So I'm going to add a heading tag called HTML attributes. Remember that we always specify our attributes in the start tag. So I'm going to come here, and the first attribute we'll be looking at is the title attribute. This title attribute provides extra information about content on your web page. So I'm just going to write and then let me go live. So you might be wondering, okay, where is the title I just added? Attributes don't display on the web page. They're embedded in your HTML tag. So if I should hover on this, you're going to see the title I added. So this provides additional information about content on the web page. Maybe there's something you believe it would be nice for the user to have more information on. You can simply use the title attributes to pass this, but the user have to hover um, on that particular element or that particular content to see the title that you added. Next attribute to be looking at is a class attribute. Now this class attribute is used to provide an identifier for HTML element. Okay, it is used to provide an identifier for HTML elements, and multiple HTML elements can have the same class. So this is how it works. We have the name of the attribute, which is class, and then over here we have you have the name of the class. So I'm just going to give this heading. Okay, I'm going to give this heading. Now, this class won't show in our web page. It won't show. Even if you hover on it, it won't show because it's something that just works within your code environment. And you mainly use it when you're working with CSS, when you start styling, or you are working with JavaScript. So when we start CSS, which we will get into in this tutorial, you will understand how classes work. And the last attribute we'll be looking at is the ID attribute. This ID attribute is also used to provide an identifier for a HTML element, but the difference is that this ID is unique, which means multiple elements cannot have the same ID. I'm just going to give this ID too. Okay, so this ID is a unique identifier for an element, but for the class attribute, it is also an identifier, but multiple elements can have the same class. So those are the three elements we'll be looking at in this video. Up next, we are going to look at HTML block and inline element. Okay, every HTML element has a default display value. Depending on what type of element it is. We have been looking at various elements so far during the course of our study. We have seen the p tag, the div, we have seen the span, we have seen anchor tag also, but they all have a default display value, and the most common ones are block and inline elements. So let's take a look at block level elements. A block level element always starts on a new line, and the browser automatically adds some space, which is known as a margin, before and after the element. Okay, a block level element always takes up the full width available. In our first class, when we looked at the p tag and we added a dummy text to it, which is Lauren, you can see that that text took on the entire width of your screen. So that's one of the characteristics of a block level element. It will take on the full width available. If it is your entire screen like this that is available, if this is the size of the width that is available, a block level element will take on the entire space. If it is half of the screen that is available, a block level element will take on the entire space. So that's one main feature of block level elements. And the two commonly used block level elements are p tag and then div tag. Okay, so I'm going to head over to VS Code and let's look at it. So I'm going to add a p tag and then Lauren, and let's see. You can see that the p tag took on the entire space. It took on the entire space. If it is half of this screen that is available, it will take on the entire space also. But I'm going to add another p tag and let's see. Then another Lauren. You can see this started on a new line. Even though there is a little space here that I could have just started from and then continue on the next line, it started on a new line. And you will notice that the texts are not close together. You can see a good amount of space between them. Okay, if I should add another p tag, you're still going to see this space between them. So a block level element by default adds space before and after the tag, so it has default spacing and they always start on a new line. Let me add a div, and in this div I'm going to add this bar tag. And in my heading, I'm just going to give this div a color by opening the style tag, and I will do this background color. You can see the div also started on a new line, and there's also space between it and the text. So the div is also a block level element. The next element type we'll be looking at are inline elements. Okay, an inline element does not start on a new line, which means unlike our p tag, if I should add an inline element to that p tag, it will continue with the space available because it does not start on a new line. An inline element only takes up as much width as necessary, unlike the block level element that takes on the entire width available, even if your screen is as large as 50-inch television, it will take on the entire space. Inline elements only take up the space that they need. They only take up the space that is necessary. And we have examples of inline elements like the span tag, the A tag, and the button tag. So let's look at it. So I'm going to add another span tag here. I'll just type my name and let's view it. You can see it continued on the same line because this span tag is only taking the space it needs to contain the word Olamide. The same thing for the hello, it takes on the space it needs to contain the word hello. We can also look at the A tag. We're just going to put .com and then you can see it still continued on the same line because inline elements only take up space that they need. They only take up space that is necessary. And the same goes for a button. Okay, you open a button like this, and then I'll type. So you can see they all continue on the same line, unlike our p tag. Let me add a p tag. Hello. You can see the p tag automatically starts on the next line, and you can see the spacing between this hello with capital H and this hello with little h. So those are the two common HTML element types that we have: block level and inline elements.